Penguin Random House Audio presents The Motivation Myth: How High Achievers Really Set Themselves Up to Win by Jeff Haden. Read for you by Ray Porter. To everyone who hasn't achieved their dreams yet. Introduction. You can do and be so much more than you think. When I worked in manufacturing for R.R. Donnelley, the world's largest commercial printer, I desperately, and I do mean desperately, wanted to become a plant manager. The closest I came was running manufacturing operations for a small, privately owned company. I spent years trying to get just one short story published. The closest I came was, well, I never came close. Looking back, deservedly so. I have dozens of failures to my name. I've tried and failed, over and over. Even worse, I've let many goals go without even trying to achieve them. I thought about them. I dreamed about them. I imagined what it would feel like to accomplish them, but I never even got started. In both scenarios, I spent a lot of time trying to motivate myself. I'd been told success was all about mindset, and I wanted to lock in the optimal psychological state before the rubber met the road. We can all remember those times when we were hit with a lightning bolt of inspiration, whether to work out or to start learning French, and we can also remember how that urge never produced any action. I was in the grip of an insidious myth. I thought motivation was a prerequisite to starting a tedious learning process, a spark necessary to get me going. But motivation is really a result. Motivation is the fire that starts burning after you manually, painfully coax it into existence, and it feeds on the satisfaction of seeing yourself make progress. The problem with waiting for motivation to strike is that it almost never comes with enough voltage to actually get you started. Granted, sometimes motivation strikes like a hammer. Minutes or hours later, though, you've lost your enthusiasm. Partly because a lightning bolt burst of motivation is like a sugar rush. It feels great, but is impossible to maintain, and when you come down, you actually feel worse. Rah-rah speeches and inspirational quotes and firewalking challenges, more on those in a minute, may help you picture yourself at the top of the mountain with your arms raised in triumph, but the effect is fleeting. After the glow is gone, you're left standing by yourself at the bottom of that same mountain, hugely intimidated by all the steps you need to climb. So you sit and dwell and sulk and wish and hope and maybe even think about saving up for Tony Robbins' next seminar, but even that sounds too hard. How successful people approach motivation. I've met plenty of successful people. Yes, many of them are smart. Yes, some of them are creative. Yes, they're often talented, but none of those traits is crucial to their success. The gene cards we are dealt are just a starting point. Nearly every successful person I know started on the downside of advantage. Humble beginnings can create the perfect foundation for success because starting at the bottom creates almost endless opportunities to enjoy small successes. Confused? That's okay. The key is to understand how motivation works. There is only one recipe for gaining motivation: success. Specifically, the dopamine hits we get when we observe ourselves making progress. Not huge, life-changing successes. Those come all too infrequently, if ever. If you want to stay motivated, if you want to stay on track, if you want to keep making progress toward the things you hope to achieve, the key is to enjoy small, seemingly minor successes, but on a regular basis. If you're trying to learn a language, it's fun when you realize you can count to 20. If you're trying to learn an instrument, it's fun when you realize you can read simple sheet music. If you're trying to learn to code, it's fun to realize that silly little program you wrote actually works. Small successes are fun and motivating. That's why you already have everything you need. That's why motivation isn't something you have. Motivation is something you get from yourself automatically from feeling good about achieving small successes. Success is a process. Success is repeatable and predictable. Success has less to do with hoping and praying and strategizing than with diligently doing, after a little strategizing, sure, doing the right things the right way over and over and over. It's easy to look back on a path to greatness and assume that every vision was clear, every plan was perfect, every step was executed flawlessly, and tremendous success was a foregone conclusion. It wasn't. Every extremely successful person I know never expected to achieve as much as they have. Many still can't believe it. Almost to a person, one day they woke up and were stunned to see how far they had come. Why were they so surprised by their success? They were busy doing. They didn't focus on what they did not have. They focused on doing the work, day after day after day, to get them to where they hoped to go. When you consistently do the right things, success is predictable. Success is inevitable. You just can't think about it too much. No obsessing allowed. The relationship between happiness and success. The motivation myth makes us unhappy for two reasons. First, it leads to a sin of commission. A person who self-identifies as a failure, who regularly quits before reaching the finish line, is a chronically unhappy person. But it also causes a sin of omission. We aren't mindfully enjoying one of the most rewarding experiences on earth, slowly growing stronger or more skillful or more wise. Like when my grandfather bought a racehorse. I wasn't even a teenager, but even I knew it was a terrible decision. A racehorse was a luxury he and my grandmother surely could not afford. But at least ongoing costs were low because he lived on a farm. That's a justification I'm sure he floated by my grandmother. Over the next year, he would scrape together entry fees and race the horse with little success at small local tracks. One was no better than an open field rutted by the pounding of hooves. Another featured an announcer who placed his PA system on the back of his truck and powered it with a generator that almost drowned out the sound of his voice. I can still remember him saying, "As you folks know, in Virginia it's illegal to bet at a racetrack, but if you folks mosey away from the track and on down to that big old oak tree over yonder, I'm sure someone will be happy to accommodate you." And I can still remember the muscles in my father's face tightening in response. Then, one day, the impossible happened. After somehow talking one of the better jockeys into riding his horse, somehow surely including slipping the man an extra $40, a princely sum for the ride, his horse placed second at the now long-defunct Goochland races, held at the county fairgrounds less than 10 miles from where my grandfather lived. After the race, he stood at the finish line and held up the small silver plate so we could take his picture. Then we led the horse back around the sandy track toward the barn area as some of the people on the outside of the rail congratulated him. I was only 12, but even I could see a noticeable difference in the way he walked. For those moments, he stood taller, carrying himself with a clear sense of accomplishment, dignity, and pride. Only years later did I realize why my grandfather had bought the horse. He desperately wanted to be someone. He wanted to matter. That's a wish we all share. For the most part, that's why we change careers, or start businesses, or play an instrument, or go back.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?